an economic stimulus package, look at what infrastructure investment does. And we've got a crumbling infrastructure. I don't have to tell the people of California that their traffic is clogged. And the reason that we have a problem is that because we're not addressing it. Every $1 billion we spend on highway construction results in 47,500 jobs. But the fact is the average American is sitting in traffic 38 hours a year. That's a full work week, not on vacation, not spent with their kids, stuck in traffic. Just sitting there behind the wheel, pointing fingers, usually one at a time, at other motorists, and very upset with what's going on around them in the traffic. The point is we're burning a lot of fuel up into the air, polluting the environment. We're wasting time. Parents never get home to their kids' soccer games and recitals. And the real sad thing is we have bridges falling down on people in the United States of America. Okay. Now, my point is, and it's not necessarily just I-95 from Bangor to Miami. I said that when I was in Florida. Today, we might look at a western highway that would go down the California coast. But my point is that infrastructure in this country has been neglected, whether it's our airports, our bridges, our roads. And I don't think there's a governor in this state that wouldn't tell you that you'll create more jobs and you'll build it with American workers, American concrete, and American steel.
Let's ask the other governor.
That's stimulus.
Let's ask the other governor on the stage. Governor Romney, what do you think of that?
There's no question but that investment in infrastructure makes enormous sense for our country. It's good for business, it's good for the economy, and as the governor that watched the completion, well, almost the completion of the Big Dig. I think that was, I don't know how many governors watched that $15 billion project. They do create a lot of good jobs, and they help our economy, the great things. But unfortunately, a road project isn't going to stimulate the economy in the time frame we have right now at the tipping point.
Was the Big Dig good, by the way?
Well, as someone has once said, it leaks badly, of course, so someone has remarked that it's the biggest car wash in America, and most expensive, too. It solved a problem, but it cost way too much money to do it. It was very badly managed. But that being said, an economic stimulus plan has to put money in the hands of consumers and businesses and homeowners now. And the reason we're asking Congress to move within 30 days is we want to get that out there now so the economy doesn't get tipped down. Building a road project, you have to get designs, eminent domain, you get the engineers to approve. It takes years and years and years to get a road project. So it's a wonderful idea, but it's not related to the short-term economic stimulus.
Well, you know, the governor says that you have to borrow for a handout of a check from the Chinese. Where are you going to get the money to build the highway? Same old thing. You know, we have a foreign policy where we blow up bridges overseas, and then we tax the people to go over and rebuild the bridges overseas, and our bridges are falling down and our infrastructure is falling down. So yes, this money should be spent back here at home. We have $1 trillion foreign operation to operate our empire. That's where the money is. You can't keep borrowing from China. You can't keep printing the money. We have to cut some spending. That's what nobody here talks about. Where do you cut spending if you want to spend some money? We need lower taxes, less regulations, and we need to free up the market. We can't expect the government to do everything. We have to have faith and confidence that the market works, but you can't do any of that unless you look at the monetary system.
Next question is Senator McCain from Jim Vandehei.
We're staying on the economy here. As you well know, foreclosures last year were up 75%. A lot of people are losing homes. A lot of people who have adjustable rate mortgages are about to have them adjust up. Amanda Oro from Casey, Illinois wants to know if you have a plan to help people with bad credit get lower interest rates so they can keep those homes and avoid foreclosure.
Yeah, and it's tough. And it's tough here in California, it's tough in Arizona, it's tough particularly all over, but it's very tough particularly in the high growth states. And I think the efforts that have been made so far are laudable. We may have to go further, but the fact that the FHA and the other organizations of government under Secretary Paulson's direction, and I think he is doing a good job sitting down and fixing at least a significant number of these problems. I think that we've got to return to the principle that you don't lend money to people that can't pay it back. I think that there's some greedy people that in Wall Street that perhaps need to be punished. I think there's got to be a huge amount more of transparency as to how this whole thing came about so we can prevent it from happening again. When a town in Norway is somehow affected by the housing situation in the United States of America, we've gotten ourselves into a very interesting dilemma. If necessary, we're going to have to take additional actions, and particularly in cleaning up a mortgage. A mortgage should be one page, and there should be big letters at the bottom that says, I understand this document. We ought to adjust the mortgages of people who were eligible for better terms but were somehow convinced to accept the mortgages which were more onerous on them. We need to fix the rating systems which clearly were erroneous in their ratings, which led people to believe that there were these institutions which were stable, which clearly are not. So I think what we've done so far is good. I think we may have to take further steps if this subprime lending situation continues to be serious. And finally, could I just mention on the issue of rebates? Fine, because part of this is psychological. Part of the problem we have, of course, in any recession is psychological, and I'm still optimistic that nothing is inevitable. I still rely on the innovation and the talent of the United States of America. But we've got to make the tax cuts permanent. We need to get rid of the alternate minimum tax. We need to give people a depreciation in 1 year for their business and investment. We need to encourage research and development and tax credits that are associated with it. And we've got to stop the spending. We've got to stop. One place where Ron Paul and I are in total agreement. Spending is out of control, and I'm tired of borrowing money from China.
Let's pick up on that with Janet Hook from Los Angeles Times. Janet?
Yes, Senator McCain, you're talking about making the tax cuts permanent. And as Governor Romney pointed out before, you opposed the Bush tax cuts the first time around. Now, more recently, you've been saying that the reason why you opposed the tax cuts at first was because they weren't offset by spending cuts. But back when you actually voted against the tax cuts in Congress, you said you opposed them because they favored the wealthy too much. So which is it? And if they were too skewed to the wealthy at first, are they still too skewed to the wealthy?
Actually, I think lower and middle income Americans need more help. Obviously, I think that's the case today. That's one reason why we're giving them rebates. I was part of the Reagan Revolution. I was there with Jack Kemp and Phil Gramm and Warren Rudman and all these other fighters that wanted to change a terrible economic situation in America with 10% unemployment and 20% interest rates. I was proud to be a foot soldier, support those tax cuts, and they had spending restraints associated with it. I made it very clear when I ran in 2000 that I had a package of tax cuts which were very important and very impactful, but I also had restraints in spending. And I disagreed when spending got out of control. And I disagreed when we had tax cuts without spending restraint. And guess what? Spending got out of control. Republicans lost the 2006 election, not over the war in Iraq, over spending. Our base became disenchanted. If we had done what I wanted to do, we would not only have had the spending restraint, but we'd be talking about additional tax cuts today. I'm proud of my record. I'm proud of my record as a foot soldier in the Reagan Revolution, and now I'm prepared to lead in restraining spending.
Governor Romney, what do you think of Senator McCain's response?
I appreciate his response and appreciate the fact he was part of the Reagan Revolution. I think that the Bush Revolution and the downturn that we faced when he came in office suggested that we needed a tax cut. There's no question in my mind that Ronald Reagan would have said sign it and vote for it. And Senator McCain was one of two that did not. And again, the justification at the time was because it represents a tax cut for the rich. I believe in getting rates down. I think that builds our economy. When we talk about spending, however, I hope people in the country understand that most people in Washington, most politicians generally, want to talk about the $2 and $3 and $4 relative items. And they want to talk about the big one. Right now, federal spending is about 60% for entitlements. Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid. And that's growing like crazy. It'll be 70% entitlements plus interest by the time of the next president's second term. And then the military is about 20% today. No one's talking about cutting the military. We ought to grow it. So people talk about the 20% and how we have to go after that 20%. There's not enough in the 20% to go after if we don't go after the entitlement problem. And you listen to all the folks running for president, no one wants to talk about it. But we have to talk about it. We have to put together a plan that says we're going to rein in the excessive growth in those areas, promising to meet the obligations we made to seniors. We're not going to change the deal on seniors, but we're going to have to change the deal for 20 and 30 and 40-year-olds, or we're going to bankrupt our country.
Let's talk about another issue which a lot of Americans watching tonight want to talk about, immigration. Jim Vandehei has a question.
Obviously, we're here in California,